Welcome everyone to Fett's Legacy. My name is Taryn, and I'm back today to talk about the Season 1 finale of the Book of Boba Fett. So guys, this means obvious spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the finale yet, please go watch that first. Second, if you guys can drop a like and subscribe, it helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all the support you guys have given me. And guys, I just want to say, before we move on with this video, I am re-watching all of the Mandalorian episodes, Season 1 and 2, and the Book of Boba Fett. And I'm going to be doing a ranking and comparison video very shortly. I am halfway done Mandalorian Season 1. So I will be getting on that, and I'll be dropping that vid for you guys soon. So let's get right onto the video. So we open with Boba, Fennec, Din, and the mods Drash and Scad in the Sanctuary's ruin. War has officially been started now. So Boba thinks, let's go back to the palace. Obviously, it's well fortified. They have high vantage points. That's the best place to take on a siege. But the mods, Drash and Scad, say, run back to your palace if you want, but we're staying here to protect the people of Mos Espa. And, this basically tells Boba that, for him to be respected as their leader, he can't just leave them like pretty much every other daimyo did in the past. You can't just sit in your palace. You have to be there, protect the people. You can't hide. So he agrees that everyone will stay in Mos Espa to protect the people. We then see, Cad Bane going to talk to the Pikes, and the mayor is there. And we find out that the Pikes actually are the ones that killed the Tuskens, so my prediction of it being Cad Bane was wrong. I'm always willing to admit when I'm wrong, guys. A lot of my theories are obviously going to be wrong, because I just like to go kind of wild with Star Wars. I love Star Wars. So we learn that the Pikes killed the Tuskens, and Cad Bane is like, well, does Boba know that, right? So he knows he can use that, not as like a thing to, tell Boba because he feels bad or anything. He can use that to get Boba angry. You know what I mean? So Cad Bane wants to know if Boba knows. They say no, they blamed it on the speeder bike gang. So guys, then we see an X-Wing flying in, and I automatically thought, oh, Luke Skywalker is bringing back Grogu, like I thought would happen. Turns out it was actually just R2-D2 flying him back. I would have liked personally more if Grogu came towards the end and Luke actually brought him, and maybe Luke took out one of the droids that we'll talk about later. He didn't have to save the day, but I just feel like, kind of a missed opportunity there for Luke to show his face. Obviously, I don't want him stealing Boba's thunder. I don't want him to take over the finale like he pretty much did in Mando Season 2. But, yeah, I just feel like, R2 bringing him back alone kind of doesn't make a lot of sense for me. But anyway, it's okay. So Grogu, we know, picked the armor. I would have liked to see him actually make the decision. But, yeah, so we knew he would pick the armor pretty much just based on the sequels. And it looks like they're continuing on with that timeline and that story. So, yeah, he picks the armor. And Pelimoto is the one that receives Grogu. And she actually says Grogu is a terrible name. Seems like a callback to George Lucas actually also saying Grogu is a terrible name. But, yeah, so that was a pretty cool callback. She gets Grogu. And we go back to Boba and Fennec and the rest of them. So they say Mos Espa is now locked down. They have people in each section from the other families. The Gamorreans, the mods, and Chrysanthemum are all in different sections. So they think it's all locked down, but Cad Bane ends up showing up. Boba and Cad Bane have a little bit of a back and forth, showing that they have some history. Obviously, they have a lot of history, but Boba stands his ground, versus Cad Bane and the Pikes. He knows that this is his town, this is his planet. He's not backing down, and Cad Bane goes on to tell Boba that the Pikes are the one that killed the Tuskens. He tells him about the Pikes taking out the Tuskens to basically draw Boba out. And so when I say draw him out, I don't mean out of Garsafwip's sanctuary. I mean draw him out of himself, get him acting on emotion as we know he can. And we also know Jango Fett, he's a very passionate fighter, fought on emotion. Cad Bane knows this as well. He does mention later on, you have your father's blood running in your veins. And so he's trying to get him to act irrational. And so he tells him about the Pikes killing the Tuskens. You could tell Boba's getting kind of emotional, right? The Tuskens meant a lot to him. Um, and, Fennec is getting in his ear because she can also tell, like, Boba's getting upset. Uh, and oh man, when Boba said, "I can take him,"
We fight on our terms, not theirs.
I can take him.
You're emotional.
I can take him.
We need to adjust.
oh my god, like that was just one of my favorite moments of the entire show. I know maybe some other people might not think that's anything crazy, but I don't know, that line just it hit so well for me. I loved it so much. But yeah, so Fennec convinces Boba, do it on your own terms. Don't just fight when they want you to. So, Bane says Boba's getting soft in his old age as Boba starts to leave, and Boba says, we all do, and then Cad Bane leaves. So then we start seeing, as I said before, the other families of Mos Espa have turned on Boba. Pretty much, well, not pretty much. All three families have turned on Boba and sided with the Pikes, obviously for credits and the spice running trade. So the mods get pinned down by the Aqualish, and Chrysanthemum gets, taken over by a bunch of Trandoshans. There's a ton going after him. I mean, he's holding his own. He's kicking ass, right? He's a beast, but there was just so many. And the Gamorreans get jousted off a ledge, which was actually kind of sad. I actually kind of started to care for the Gamorreans. I liked them a lot. They were very loyal. Hopefully, maybe Boba will get some more Gamorreans in the future, but I liked those Gamorreans, so that was kind of sad. But obviously, I know like something has to die, right, for it to mean a little bit more. So, Boba sends Fennec to go take out the head of the Pikes, and you take out the head, and everyone will fall. So he sends her out, and obviously Fennec stops on her way to go save the mods. She starts taking them out, and this shows the mods that Boba and Fennec, like, they're willing to risk their lives for everyone on the team. They actually care about the people under them, unlike most of those other daimyos. So, this goes along with Boba saying he wants to rule with respect, right? So he wants to save his friends, and we'll talk about a bit more about that later. But so Fennec saves the mods, and then she heads towards Mos Eisley. Pikes enter the town and close down on the sanctuary. So at this point, it's just Boba and Din, right? Chrysanthemum is taking on the Trandoshans. The mods are trying to get to Mos Espa, to the sanctuary, and Fennec is going to Mos Eisley, right? So it's just Boba and Din. Boba says, you should go. Like, basically, like, I know we're pretty much screwed here. Get out of here. But Boba's not going to leave the people of Mos Espa. He's not going to leave them. So basically, he was submitting here that he was willing to die on this battlefield for Mos Espa. And Din says he won't go. He gave him his word. It's against the creed, and he's stuck with him. So then Mando says, this is the way. Boba asks him if he believes in that bantha fodder. Din says yes. Boba says good. Obviously, guys, Boba is a Mandalorian, but he doesn't follow the same Mandalorian creed that Din does. Boba was taught the Super Commando Codex by Jango Fett. That was obviously used mostly by the true Mandalorians that Jango Fett was a part of. So he doesn't follow Din Djarin's creed, as we know he's a part of a different sect. He was a part of the Children of the Watch. Obviously not anymore, but yeah, so that's just kind of explaining that line. But yeah, so then Mando says, after they go over some of their options, Mando says we will both die in the name of honor. Obviously, guys, I know they're not going to die, but this was just a really cool scene, showing that they're both willing to die for their beliefs, and it was a really good scene. So Boba ends up sending out the Major Domo as a distraction. I thought this was hilarious, as the Major Domo goes up and he says, like, I'm willing to grovel, beg, and bow for you. Won't hurt your ego. You might have to give them some credits, but we could probably get transport off-world, right? And so Boba's like, all right, I'll write down what I'm willing to pay. And he sends him out there, and he delivers Boba's message without knowing what he wrote. And, Boba says, I will pay nothing. Get off my planet, pretty much. One part that Bob actually wrote down that I thought was really good was, he says, the arid sands of Tatooine will once again flourish with flowered fields, fertilized by the bodies of your dead. And that was so cool. Obviously, the Major Domo was freaking out. Then, guys, in the nick of time, probably my favorite scene in any Star Wars show ever. Boba and Mando come flying out with their jetpacks, shooting up the pikes. I mean, this was absolutely awesome, guys. If you watch the scene and you didn't like it, then I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, you probably shouldn't be watching my videos, because that was like some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. They come out flying with their jetpacks. We get to see Boba firing his EE-3 blaster finally. I've been waiting for him to use that. And, they're just kicking ass. And they end up landing. They're shooting a bunch of pikes. We see Boba use his knee rockets a couple times. That was awesome. Boba and Mando go back to back, just shooting pikes. But eventually they start getting overrun. They just keep coming. And obviously two guys of the skill in Boba and Mando, like, they can take out a lot. But when the pikes just keep coming, obviously they started getting overrun. Having Mandalorian armor helps, but they start getting pinned down, and the people of Freetown show up, and they basically save the day. They're taking out the pikes in their like little transport. They give them some cover, and then the mods end up showing up to help, and we see they're starting to fight back against the pikes, and we see Chrysanthemum also. Chrysanthemum comes back heavily wounded from all the Trandoshans. Obviously, his cybernetics and his upgrades help a lot. But yeah, there was just so many on him. He's clearly beaten up bad. He's limping, and he ends up falling to the ground. And Boba, risks his life to go and save Chrysanthemum, with Mando, helping him and covering Boba. And this shows, this is why people respect and love Boba, because he's willing to put his life on the line for his people. He cares about his people, and this is what he said to Fennec. I will put my life on the line to save yours. So this is why the people under him respect him so much. He goes and saves Chrysanthemum, and they start driving back the pikes, and they think everything is won until we see these large shielded droids, almost like large version of droidicas. They are coming out. I'm guessing they are bought by the pikes. They are called Scorpionic Annihilator droids. They are from Legends. We have never seen them in canon material, but they were in some Legends material. So it was very cool to see them. Very cool droids. They have very strong shields. They're very powerful. Like I said, they're like an upgraded droidica, right? So, and we already know how crazy droidicas can be. So these guys are just beefy, right? And yeah, so these were very cool to see. Boba and Mando allow the people to run off as they kind of distract them a bit. And so Boba realizes, like, nothing's really going to take down these shields, as they're trying with everything they got. Boba even uses his jetpack rocket, his giant one. It doesn't do enough. Din is using the Darksaber. It can't get through. They're struggling a lot. So Boba says we need to get reinforcements, and he tells Mando to protect the other people so he can go get the reinforcements. I was kind of half expecting him to show up with Bosk after, but he doesn't. Spoiler alert, I guess, guys. Yeah, Bosk doesn't show up at all in the show. I thought he was confirmed to show up, so I thought that was kind of weird. I definitely wanted to see Bosk. But yeah, anyway, Boba ends up flying off, and Din Djarin has to distract the droids. One ends up following the rest of the crew, the mods, people of Freetown, and Chrysanthemum. And Chrysanthemum tries to let them go. He stays back, and he tries to get through the shields. Obviously, he's immensely strong. He has cybernetics, and he has a lot of upgrades, so he can kind of get through. He's trying, but it's very hard for him. The droid realizes what he's doing and knocks him back. So we then see Pelimoto shows up and helps Mando escape. So that was pretty cool. I didn't expect to see much of her in this episode, but yeah, so she shows up, and then we see the Freetown citizens and the mods hold up and kind of have a last stand with the Pikes and one Scorpionic droid in this little, shop or broken down house or whatever. So we then see Grogu with Pelimoto, and when Din realizes Grogu is there, it was so funny. He's like focusing on what's going on behind them and making sure they're not really being followed. And then Grogu shows up and he just drops everything. He's like, what? Like, that was hilarious. Dad Mando is always nice to see. So Din and Grogu have a special moment, but obviously it's dangerous, so it doesn't last very long. But yeah, he sees that he got the shirt. So the Scorpionic droid following them ends up blowing up their little caravan thing, and we see, Din fly mid-air to save Grogu. I mean, that was nice to see. And everything looks bad until we hear a distant roar. We automatically knew this was Boba on the Rancor. This was the reinforcements he was talking about. This was amazing. Yeah, now these are reinforcements, like a giant Rancor. That is for real. For me, seeing a live action Rancor in action, like actually like doing stuff, has to be one of the coolest Star Wars moments of all time. I feel like this is kind of going underrated by people. I feel like people really aren't giving this Rancor scene its true credit, because the only thing we've seen from a Rancor in the past was, him down in the pit fighting Luke. It was very slow, and Luke ends up killing it pretty easy, right? Obviously, it's Luke Skywalker, so it makes sense. But yeah, like, this was some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen in Star Wars, guys, like I said. But honestly, like, Boba riding a Rancor and just taking out these droids was some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen as well. Obviously, the Boba and Mando scene was probably my favorite, but this whole Rancor section is, again, some of the coolest stuff I've seen in Star Wars. So the Rancor is able to hurt the shields of the droid, and the droid actually has to focus shield power to the front. The Rancor is still getting through, right? It's a powerful beast. They're bred for fighting, and the droid ends up shooting it in like the chest area, but Mando is able to get in behind because it had to transfer all of its power to the front with the Darksaber, and he cuts up the droid a bit and removes the shield, and then the droid throws him off and starts going towards him. It's looking like the end for Din Djarin, and we see Grogu comes to the rescue and saves Din, like he did with the Mudhorn in Season 1, and he takes out a part of the droid's leg, allowing Din Djarin to get up. And this allows Boba and his Rancor to recover and then destroy it, just absolutely ripped it to pieces. I mean, that was amazing. And so Boba then goes on to help the others. Boba comes flying in through a wall with the Rancor, like some of the most badass shit ever. And yeah, he takes some hits, but from the droid, but ultimately he destroys the droid. The Rancor just absolutely, again, rips it apart, destroys it. The Rancor is grabbing pikes. He lifts one up for Boba to shoot in the face, which was hilarious. And we see a Rancor eat a pike as well, which I obviously wanted to see. And then we see Cad Bane shows up and uses his flamethrower on the Rancor. It seems like they really hate fire, I guess. And also, this one, Boba just got this Rancor, so it's also lacking some training. And, basically leaves. And this was basically just to give Boba versus Cad Bane 1v1, nothing else going on. So they go towards a duel. I kind of wanted to see Boba use his, pistol on his hip, because that's kind of what you do in the duel, but he went with his EE3 like we have seen him do, and that's obviously his preferred weapon. So here's the thing, right? In a duel, in a 1v1 like quickest hand, even Boba admits you probably are the fastest hand. But Cad Bane is the fastest hand in probably all of Star Wars ever. He was definitely faster than Boba, as we just saw. Obviously, in the deleted scene, they went at the same time, but Boba was using pistols. I don't know if his pistols versus his blaster has anything to do with it. And I think even Cad Bane was faster than Jango with his sleight of hand. I just think he's probably the fastest ever. But Cad Bane mentions, his father's blood pumping through his veins. He's a killer, and he's really trying to get Boba to come out, because he knows this is not the Boba he knows. Cad Bane and Boba have a huge history. Jango trained and mentored Cad Bane, but Cad Bane always resented Jango, as he could never surpass Jango, right? And then when he died, Cad Bane became the best bounty hunter in the galaxy. And when Boba was kind of coming up from when he was young, Cad Bane also mentored Boba a little bit, obviously, to kind of repay to Django what he did for him. The thing is with Cad Bane is he's an evil guy, you know what I mean? So it wasn't just mentoring Boba. Everyone's saying, oh yeah, he mentored Boba, he mentored Boba. He didn't just mentor Boba. He wanted to build Boba up so he could kill him and fully cement that he was better than the Fets. Literally, like that's what he wanted to do. So, obviously it didn't work out like that, and Boba survived this whole time. But that's what he wanted to do. That's where that deleted scene is from. He wanted to build Boba up so he could take him out and fully cement his legacy. So, yeah, and they go on talking. Bane says, consider this as a final lesson. Bane says, look out for yourself, and anything else is a weakness. And in probably the most poetic justice moment, Boba takes him out with the gaffy stick, knocks him on his back, disarms him with his two blasters, and Boba might have let him live, but then Bane tries to use his flamethrower after Boba, took away his guns, and Boba blocks it and stabs him through the chest. I love this. Some people are saying the duel is a little anticlimactic. I definitely feel like it could have been drawn out more like a real fight, but this was more about the emotional weight of the fight. I still think this was a great ending for Cad Bane's story. I hope that he stays dead. I know people are mentioning his beeping thing on his chest. I just think I know we're really bringing back pretty much every character who dies now, but I don't want that to be the case. I think this was a great ending for Cad Bane. I think this was great for Boba's story, and if he just ends up coming back, it's going to make this duel seem almost pointless. So I think they should just leave him killed off, and there's still plenty of story for Cad Bane to explore in between this timeline and everything before. So I think just leave him dead. And I don't know. I thought that was a really cool moment. So the Rancor goes on a bit of a rampage. Obviously, he's mad about all the fire, and the mods begin to shoot at him. This made no sense to me, right? As they know it's Boba's Rancor, so this made zero sense. It doesn't make any sense why you're trying to shoot it if it's already angry. You're just going to make it more pissed off. So Din Djarin comes in, and he's obviously trying to calm down the Rancor. We actually see a King Kong moment as the Rancor climbs a tower and he's hanging off. Obviously not really related to Star Wars, but King Kong 2005 is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love King Kong. I love those movies. So that was kind of a cool little homage paid to King Kong in one of my favorite shows of all time, paying homage to one of my favorite movies of all time. So that was just really awesome. And yeah, Din tries to calm him down. It doesn't work. And the Rancor is going crazy, about to, do something to Din Djarin. And Grogu saves Din again, using the Force on the Rancor to calm him down. And Grogu and the Rancor end up napping together. So that was really cute. I love that. So we then see the leader of the Pikes, and they say, they're leaving Tatooine, as this is not what they signed up for. The other Gotras are upset, as they've sided with the Pikes. Fennec ends up making it to Mos Eisley around this time and takes out everyone in the room. She's running around kind of like a stealthy assassin, as we do know she is, and she absolutely destroys. She hangs the mayor. So that was so gruesome and so cool. I loved it. That was awesome. I do think Boba probably should have been the one to take out the Pikes and all these people, but I understand he sent Fennec early on, and they're all in Mos Eisley, so this makes sense. But I wanted to see Boba take all these people out. But yeah, and Fennec ends up killing the Pike leader, so everyone is dead. And then at the end, we see Boba and Fennec are walking through the town, and the people of Mos Espa respect him and see him as their rightful leader. As they should. He stuck around, he fought the Pikes, and he protected them all. So, Boba says the Bacta tank is being used. And so this is actually just hinting towards the end scene credits. I'll just talk about it now. If you guys haven't seen it, it is actually Cobb Vanth that is being restored in Boba's Bacta tank. And we see the mod guy at the parlor, with those yellow dreads. We see him probably going to mod up and save Cobb Vanth. So, and a lot of people are speculating on what this means. I think, guys, Cobb Vanth is being set up as the new main character for Rangers of the New Republic. That show was, postponed, and they were kind of trying to find a replacement for Cara Dune, as Gina Carano had her, political statements, and obviously she lost her job over it. So they had to postpone and take a pause on the Rangers of the New Republic. So maybe they're setting him up for that. I think that would be awesome. But then now, Boba says we're not meant for this. I think he just means doing like some of the lower level stuff. Now that he's fully cemented his empire on Tatooine, I don't think that he would cement his whole empire just to give it up, right? Because we know Boba is he's staying on Tatooine. He loves Tatooine. And this has a lot to do with the Tuskens giving him a new appreciation for the planet. But also, you have to think, before he went into the Sarlacc, where was Boba most of the time? He was on Tatooine, right? His home planet of Kamino, he doesn't really consider that like his home. You know what I mean? He lived there with his dad for a bit, but he didn't stay there very long, first of all. And it's destroyed now. So most of the time that he spent, he was either doing bounties around the galaxy, but when he wasn't, where he was just kind of chilling and taking his time and in between jobs, he was on Tatooine. So this is his home. So I don't think he's just going to give up this empire that he worked so hard to build. I think he's just going to split up some of his territories amongst some of his people, like the Mods and Chrysantin and Fennec. They're going to let them do more work, I think. And maybe Cobb Vanth will come into the fold. I'm not really sure, but that would be really cool. So then we see Mando and Grogu now in the new ship in Grogu's little port up at the top. So Grogu clearly wants something. Din Djarin says no a couple times until he finally gives in. I mean, how can you not give in to Grogu? I mean, but yeah, so he speeds off in the N1 Naboo starfighter, which is what Grogu wanted to see. And that was a really cool ending to their story for now. Obviously, we'll see them again in Mandalorian Season 3. But yeah, so I do want to I'm going to make a whole separate video kind of reviewing this episode. I did want to just go kind of in depth into a recap about it, talk about what some of the things meant to me, but I'll be reviewing some of the bigger parts of the episode in another video coming soon. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I personally really enjoyed the episode. I loved it. For me, this finale ended up topping Mandalorian Season 2 for me. I will be talking about that further in another video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry this one was so long, but yeah, please like and subscribe if you've gotten this far, and I hope to see you guys next time.